Good, because you know what we wanted to tell you? Housekeeping!
Housekeeping!
But did you guys see the email?
I don't know. I don't even know how to log into that.
Are we going to call this one Deepin?
Deepin? I'll have to think about that.
Hey, Dan, if I'm a guy like Jay and I want to send us an email, how do I get it to us?
You can send that to... Hang on. He didn't use our email. He used the contact form. Wait a minute. You messed me up. He sent it to the fireside.
But if we're a guy like Jay,
right,
and we like to use email, how could you send it to us?
It's for people who like to use email.
We are contact@linuxuserspace.show. Anyway.
You don't sound too confident there.
Are you sure it's contact@linuxuserspace.show?
I am now. Hang on.
No, I'm reading it. I'm reading it right now. I'm 72% positive that's what it says.
It's definitely...
Oh, there it is.
contact@linuxuserspace.show.
I wrote it down. It's just further down my page.
.com?
No. Hey, we had this conversation last time. They're goldfish. That was 14 seconds ago.
Rocco, let me tap the glass.
We're good.
Come on. They don't know.
Okay. All right. Fine. 3, 2, 1.
Happy Halloween.
Coming up on this episode of Linux User Space, we cover Deepin and all the implications of using it. Is it that distro that you can hand to somebody, a new user maybe? Or is it something else? We're also going to cover one of the best tools for installing games in our app focus. Welcome to Linux User Space. I'm Rocco.
I'm Joe.
I'm Leo.
And I'm Dan.
And we are back with another episode. I love you guys.
We're going deep. We're going real deep.
Rocco, we're just happy to see you.
Yeah, man, I'm so glad you made it.
We got worried.
You should have been worried. You should have been worried because I was almost not here any longer on the planet because I almost died. Not to be too dramatic, but
so I heard whispers about this. I have no idea what's going on. You're gonna have to fill me in. What happened?
Okay, so let me back up. First, a week and a half ago, I go to the Quick Lube for my pickup truck, and I get the oil changed, and I get the tires rotated, and I'm good. Because this past Friday, I went up to New York to visit my girlfriend, and along the way up, I go New Jersey Turnpike, and I'm going through, I'm just about to head into New York, and the truck starts shaking. Now, this has nothing to do with Linux, but it is the story of why I might not have been here. But the truck starts shaking, and I can't figure out what's going on. I stop, I'm looking, I can't see anything wrong with it. It got to the point where I couldn't go 20 miles an hour without the truck shaking. So this is 8:30 at night on a Friday night, and I'm like, where is there a mechanic going to be open on at 8:30 at night? So I did what anybody would do. I Googled it.
You mean DuckDuckGo, right? DuckDuckGo?
No, I actually Googled it.
I'm trying to figure out what exactly you Googled. What did you Google? My whole truck is shaking. What do I do?
Right. So I just Googled mechanic near me, and there was 1.6 miles away that was open till 9. And I got there, and I pull in, and he says...
He gave you the look, didn't he?
Yeah, he's like, oh, I was leaving early.
Yeah, where were you at? You were at Jersey? He was like, this guy right here. This guy.
Well, he had no idea what was wrong with it. But then he said, all right, nose it up to the garage door, and I'll just look at it. I said, okay. So I backed the truck up, turning, and pulled in, and... He said, he threw his hands up in the air and he walked away. I'm like, what? I got out of the truck. I said, what are you doing? He's like, I know exactly what's wrong with your truck. He said, your wheel's about to fall off. Here, the garage never tightened the lug nuts enough.
Oh.
So they came loose, sheared off 2 of the studs on the tire, and it was wobbling. I have a video of me wobbling the tire. There had to be at least 2 inches of play in this tire. And he said, if you would have went another mile, you would have lost that tire. And the different part of this conversation is I don't normally go that way. I normally go a completely different route, all highway, which I would have been doing. I mean, the speed limit's 70, so take it from there.
95.
What I would have been doing.
Yep.
And I would have made a really quick left-hand turn if that wheel would have came off, and it would have been all over maybe. So I'm glad to see you guys.
So here's where you're wrong.
Wow.
Here's why it is about Linux. Because the reason they didn't put your lug nuts back on is because they're your biggest fan and they were listening to your podcast. Okay, I might have made that up.
Wait, I was going to say,
good.
hold on.
They should stop
that's
listening and
the
start
opposite.
tightening lug
Yeah.
nuts.
Yeah, I'm just, maybe you distracted him. Maybe he recognized your voice.
I'm okay
Maybe.
if we lose a listener, as long as they're doing their job.
Yeah.
I don't really want to lose anyone.
I don't want to lose anybody either.
Hosts, listeners.
Keep tightening them down, okay?
Let's get back to Linux here. Leo, what have you been up to, man?
Yeah, not really a whole lot. I've been doing some wire sharking, and we'll talk about that a little later in the show. But I haven't busted out Wireshark in quite a long time, and I was kind of worried that I had kind of lost the touch of it all. But then as soon as those colorful lines started spraying up onto the screen, it all came flooding back. So that was kind of nice. Yeah, I got to flex some Wireshark. But that's really about as interesting as I've gotten over the past couple of weeks.
So what made you fire up Wireshark? I don't even understand. Like just out of the blue, you just were like worried about traffic on your machine?
Well, I mean, a little, because, well, okay, I wasn't really worried about it at all, but there's a whole lot of history on Deepin, and I think like a year, 2 ago, something like that, there was this whole kerfuffle about how Deepin is taking all of your datas and giving it to China, or something like that, right?
Yeah,
And
that sounds about right.
It was very dramatic.
That was exactly how the headlines read.
I
Yes.
think so, actually. So I was like, I don't know, maybe, probably not. So I fired up and just start poking around at it and starting to see, right? Like I open up the App Store and see what kind of traffic I'm getting. I do apt install whatever and see what kind of traffic I'm getting. I let it sit there for a couple hours and just kind of see what traffic is going back and forth. Do y'all want me to get into it now?
No.
Okay.
But go ahead.
So,
No,
well,
don't.
hold on, because I mean, it's gonna slip right into everything else.
No, let's wait.
Okay.
I think we want to know. I think we want to know if ET's phoning home.
Well, I hope you want to
Yep.
know, because it's probably gonna take me a little while to explain it. And if nobody wants to know, well, then you're just gonna be really bored for a little while.
Let's hope not.
Okay.
All right, here we are. We are talking about Deepin and how deep its roots are. Are they blonde? Are they brown? Are they gray? What color are Deepin's roots?
Do we want to know what their color, the roots are?
We probably don't. There's a tip.
We don't.
Okay, so Deepin. The history on Deepin. Well, it was officially established in 2011 as Wuhan Deepin Technology. Ding, ding. We get to talk about Wuhan and not coronavirus. Isn't that exciting? But I still
Right.
did because I just
Yay.
can't help myself.
Jeez.
But its roots actually go back quite a bit earlier. It started out as Hiwix. You guys remember Hiwix? No, you don't.
Never.
No, just stop.
I
don't answer it.
I just don't.
You know, I'm not gonna be able to chime in until like 2018.
Yeah,
Okay.
Hiwix lasted about a second and a half, and then it turned into, they were like, you know what, Hiwix isn't the best name, so we're going to change it to Hiweed.
So much
That's
better.
much better.
Way better.
That's, at least it works. Hiweed. I don't know. It works together. That didn't last very long either, but those versions started in 2004, and they were using the ICE window manager called the ICE Window Manager DE based on Morphix. You guys know
hold
about
on.
Morphix?
What is oh, no, you're gonna have to fill me in. What is Morphix, Joe? Please tell me all about Morphix.
Oh, it's the one that we run every... No, nobody cares about Morphix.
nobody cares
That's
about
Oh
nothing.
man, I
Yeah.
thought I was gonna get a good lesson
Yeah,
on
you
Morphix.
thought
I
you
was
were
like,
gonna
well,
get-
maybe I'm just gonna get off
Yeah.
Cinnamon now and just get on Morphix.
Go. Let us know. Let us know how it is. It's version 1.1.
Okay,
Still out there.
episode probably around 150. I'll let you know how Morphix went.
Yeah. 16 years. It's been sitting there waiting for you to find it, Leo. Good job. They go through a few different phases, but by the end of 2004, so again, in 2004, we go from Hiwix to Hiweed. And by the end of 2004, they are basing themselves off of Debian and using XFCE as the default desktop environment.
Okay, so we're on Debian. Deepin is based on Debian now. So obviously they stayed on Debian the whole time, right?
Right. No,
wow.
because that's not the Linux way. So they got to try all the things, of course. So in 2006, with their official release 1.0, they're now based off Ubuntu. So they're kind of still based off Debian.
Good choice.
But yes, they made a good choice. They go to Ubuntu. 2008, they switch focus on the DE to LXDE, which was, again, another change. And just a year later, 2009, switching to GNOME 2. And they're no longer Highweed Linux, but they become Linux Deepin.
That's familiar.
Big D, by the way. Linux Deepin with a big D.
Oh, this
more
makes
changes
a
to come. But 2 years later, 2011, GNOME 2's gone. Now we're on GNOME 3.
I think that upset a lot more people than just a few.
Yeah. I think so.
So you're telling me that they didn't just fork off GNOME 2 and then just keep maintaining it for the entire time? Like, that's not what happened?
No. They went an even harder way.
Nice.
We'll get there. 2013, so just 2 years later, June 19th, Deepin Desktop Environment 1.0 is shipped, and it is based on GNOME Shell. So, there's still the GNOME back end, I think, at that point. But
now, does anybody remember that coming out at that time? I don't remember that coming out.
Really, no.
I know I was around. I know I was in Linux. I know, but I just don't remember when it came out like that.
Yeah, I was actually surprised that they went back as far as they did to 2004 because I don't remember anything about. Although before 2013, we wouldn't have known them as Deepin. You would have had to know about Highweed Linux. So it was probably one of those niche and a niche and a niche that we see on, well, I know you guys all frequent Distro Watch. Yeah. So just keep paging down and then eventually you'll get to where Highweed was probably hanging out. But 2015, December, Deepin 15 ships. Now, we were 1.0 in 2013, but now we're 15 in 2015. But
man, we went
just
a
a number.
Just a 15 number. Versions in 2 years. But obviously, they start basing off of the year and date for their naming convention. But they also are back to Debian, but Debian unstable branch, which I can't believe even exists together in a sentence. Debian and unstable. But what does that mean? The packages have been updated within a year instead of 2? Like, what is that?
No, it's worse than that.
Yeah, it's a cascade. Debian unstable is quite literally a rolling distro. I mean, you just get slapped in the face with new packages all the time.
So yes, they switched their base yet again. And now, though, another switch. They're getting rid of GNOME as the backend, and they switch to Qt as their backend. And that is also the same year that Wuhan Deepin Technology joins the Linux Foundation. Interesting, these first decade, really it's about 11 years, you could see they were searching for something, right? They bounced around with desktop environments, they bounced around with their base, and yet they finally, remember we said they took the harder road, they end up developing their own desktop environment, which is not a fork. It's not it is its own thing that they've created. In fact, when I was looking through all of their apps and stuff, hardly anything is a fork. Mm-hmm. A lot of their stuff is homegrown, in-house. The only thing that isn't is their window manager. They have a fork of Kwin as far as that goes. But
so what you're saying is now that they've found their way, everything is smooth sailing for Deepin.
No, I am not saying that at all. Okay. But I am saying they have figured out the direction they want to go in, obviously, because now here we are. They've invested, 7 years in their desktop environment. So, they've put a lot of work in, and we've seen it. We've seen it grow and change. The big thing that really hits, and I think this is all of us will remember 2018. If we remember nothing else on their history, we will remember 2018 where they were accused of spyware.
Yep.
And it was.
This is where I get to chime in. I get to finally say, hey, Deepin finally hit my radar here because I'm a huge security nerd. And yeah, this came across and I was like, well, But I mean, you've got some information on this. So, I mean, yeah, tell me.
Yeah. So, well, I'll tell you what, I'll read the response from the developers there. It says, Deepin has to inform all those, by the way, English, not first language. So, but I'm going to read it as it sits. Deepin has to inform all those interested that our App Store backend is a website and CNZZ is a famous internet statistics analysis service provider that collects website anonymous usage information such as browser user agents, resolution, etc., and which is just the same product as Google Analytics. Deepin uses CNZZ to collect website access information and so to know how to improve our website experience and detect website problems. No private information can be collected this way just by the data above mentioned. So that was their response.
Everything is fine, right? Everything is fine now.
All good.
Well, I mean, hold on. So,
good.
I mean,
I trust them 100%.
Yeah.
I read this and looking at nothing else in their history, everybody does this.
Yeah.
Every website you go to,
Yeah.
everybody does this. You would be blown out of your shoes if you paid attention to every script that ran on every website. You would be like, why do they need to know what applications I have installed? Why do they need to know if I have a mic plugged in? Why do they need to know what my screen resolution is, right? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I saw that and I was kind of let down because I was like, oh man, where's the meat? And well, yeah, I mean, this is all over the place.
That's normal stuff. I mean, some of the websites, we were talking about this offline a couple of weeks ago. Some of the websites, they watch what you click on, what you type. I mean,
yes.
That's the scary stuff right there.
Yes, where they know, and this is my favorite collection script out there. They see your mouse movements, not just what you click on, but they know where your mouse is in relation to every single thing on the page. And not naming names here, but there are people that you trust run these scripts on their websites.
That's why I only use touchscreen.
Exactly. So these people know, seriously, that they use this information so they can figure out where to put ads because they know where your mouse is most of the time. So they're going to put them there.
Yeah, they know where you're looking because they know where your mouse is. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's scary.
Yeah, so there was a big hubbub about this. Now, obviously, we know the climate of the world we live in and the political adversaries on the world stage. We don't have to go into any of that to understand how things like this are going to be, I'm not even going to say blown out of proportion. I'm just going to say brought to the forefront, why they make news, because
this is how it got feet.
Yes.
Because there is some of that floating around. Yeah.
Right. So this really isn't news. This is just facts about web traffic.
Yeah.
as we understand it. So their website, or they use a backend on their app store. And maybe this is why it rang some bells too, because it was directly connected to the app store, not just maybe other things.
That's what I was going to say. This is a little bit more than just a website. You don't expect it from your Linux distribution to collect this information. You expect a website to collect information when you go to it, but this was a little bit deeper because it was built in. Yeah. Because you had no choice. Like if you use a browser and you're concerned about the security stuff, you can use plugins, add-ons, whatever you want to use to block a lot of that stuff. But with this, there was no recourse. It was built into the App Center, and I think that's what the big hubbub is about.
Yeah. Yep. So again, it makes sense why it became a big deal, but there was nothing ever found within it. So it was exactly from everything I could find. Nobody had a story because that would have blown up that said, "Oh, we found this tracker, this thing." It was all normal stuff that we're used to. Now, I think one of the things here that happens is most people come to Linux and they go, "Ooh, I don't have to worry about such and such doing that because it's Linux." Well, that's not the case. Google uses Linux. That's not the case. So it's not a just trust the distro of choice. And this is probably around the time when Deepin did switch over to Qt. So within that couple of year band, that's when we really started hearing about it, right? The desktop. Ooh, have you seen that pretty desktop that's out there?
Yep.
Because it was so different, and they had their own approach, and again, a lot of their own homegrown apps. It was all hitting at the same time. So not tough to.
Well, this is one of those things where it's like, bad publicity is still publicity.
Exactly.
And they are now on the scene. There is now a Deepin remix, right? It's not a full flavor yet. Is that
it's
right?
a remix. Yep.
Okay,
DD.
yeah. I mean, and I mean, at least as we're recording this, it's almost ready. So we'll see.
And you see it in a couple of different Arch distros as well. So it's got some prominence.
Yeah, it was available. It blew up when I tried to install it, so I just went GNOME. But I mean, it's in Arch. It's good.
Out there.
Yep. So then let's we're getting closer to our current dates here. But 2019, another change. Not a big change, but at least a change. Probably a good change. As we talked about Debian Unstable and what that brings to the table. 2019 April, Deepin 15.10, which should be Deepin 19 if we're following the naming convention. You know what? They went from 1 to 15, and then they were like, we're going too fast. Let's pump the brakes, good buddy. And they're at 15.10. They switched to Debian 9 stable branch, which was probably a good idea.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
that's where you want to be.
Just to have your stable base and build all your cool stuff on top. Just don't break it.
Right. If I was them, I'd have stayed with Ubuntu, but there's probably other reasons that we don't know about. 2019, also, same year. This is a big announcement. Huawei is a huge company in the world. I remember looking at the MateBook X Pro back in the day when we could buy them in the US and thinking, that's a sweet laptop. They started shipping Deepin as an option on their MateBook Pro X, the MateBook 13, and the MateBook 14 shipping from the factory with Deepin. That's a pretty big vote of confidence.
All right, check this out, right? I really kind of do feel like 2020 is the year of the Linux desktop. I mean, or laptop or whatever, because you got Lenovo and you got Dell and you got all of these other, Linux companies that are rallying around and making Linux stuff, right? Well, Chinese New Year is not the same as our New Year, right? Yeah, so their year of the Linux desktop was actually 2019, as far as we're concerned, and ours was 2020, and it just had to do with the calendar. Yeah, that's it.
They're ahead of us anyways. It's like 30 or something, right? I don't know what year it is, but yeah, they're so far in the future. It's like talking to Sleepy Eye Vince. He's in Australia. It's tomorrow already. So I just asked him, what's the day? What's it looking like? So we make our last stop, 2020, September 11th, release of Deepin Desktop 4.0, DDE for short, based on Debian 10 Buster.
Joe, I think we went backwards in numbers there.
I think we did.
I don't think they. It's the desktop environment version 4, but it's Deepin 20, right?
Right. There we go.
Yeah.
So we went from 15 to 20.
I'm confused.
Yeah. Well, maybe it's going to be 20.1, 20.2, and then when we get to 2025, it'll be Deepin 25.
Oh,
because it was Deepin 15, Deepin 20, Deepin. I don't know. I may have made all that up.
Boy,
I'm trying to find. I see patterns.
Numbers are hard.
Oh my God.
Yeah, better than dead people. But yeah, patterns. Yeah, see patterns. So that is Deepin. Now, I know everyone in Telegram was very excited for me to pronounce names that originate in the country of origin.
I'm so excited for this.
But not to disappoint.
No.
There weren't any, because you can't find anybody involved with this project. Well, I found one name, and I'm not even going to say it because I couldn't even verify what they do and how and what their level of involvement is. So
language barrier, you strike again.
I think that sounds like a cop-out, Dan.
Man, you are so lucky sometimes, Joe.
You guys know I'm up for butchering names anytime. So
All right,
I was sad that I couldn't
Distro
find
next.
anything. Yeah, Portuguese. No, we'll end up back. We'll end up back in this country. We'll find some. We already talked about another desktop environment. We'll work back there. But yeah, sorry to disappoint everybody out there. So our basic distribution details. What is at the core of Deepin? Well, Deepin 20, again, based on Debian 10.5 as of this recording. The Deepin Desktop Environment 4.0 or DDE 4.0. That is, again, where you get Ubuntu DDE. That's the name of their desktop environment. Their file manager is Deepin File Manager. Package manager is Deepin Package Installer, and they use the deb package format. And kernels, you have two options, which was neat, I will say. I opted for 5.7. You could pick 5.4 or 5.7 when you went to install. They're using a kwin fork called dde-kwin, and X11 is there as well as Wayland if you want to go play around and be disappointed.
Hold on. On the 5.4 and 5.7 thing, I thought it was going to be like some really cool GUI switchy kind of thing going on.
No.
And I was like, all right, cool. I'm just going to hit enter on it. And then it's going to ask me what kernel I want. And then after I reboot, after I install, it's going to be fantastic, right? Never asked me, never once. And I was like, what's going on? So I boot back into it and I realized it's under advanced options. It's not even on the main screen. You gotta go dig and then find 5.7. And so I did 5.4 on my laptop and 5.7 on a desktop. I'll talk about that later on too.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so we spent an entire month playing around with Deepin. What do you guys think?
Oh, man. It's so beautiful. I just want to love it. I do. But
there's always a but, Dan.
You start scratching at that surface and the underside comes through a little bit. It was kind of like a DuPont overhaul. There was a touch of paint and you scratched it off and you could see right through it. I mean, it had some nice things though. So I'll say the welcome video was really nice. I thought that was well done.
If it worked.
Yeah, well, it worked for me. Sorry.
Did it not work for you, Rocco?
That would be a no. I got a black screen on that welcome video.
I do remember that.
Happened,
yes, I remember.
But I got a black screen. What's the sense of having a welcome video if I can't watch it?
You were still sold.
Did you find the advanced option where you went back to like kernel 3?
Like everybody's like, all you guys are talking about this video, and I'm like,
it's a nice
this
video.
is a black
Was a good
screen
video.
for crying out loud.
It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Anyway, I'm sorry, Dan.
No, it was a great 20 seconds. So it was a nice video. And I liked that they had some simple theme choices. There wasn't a lot of options, but they were simple and they worked well. And I can also say that they've put a lot of work into this because I've tried some previous versions, 15.10 tried, and not everything was really consistent. But this,
it wasn't, Dan.
No.
You are absolutely on the point
I
there.
mean, the colors, the theming, the whole thing, it didn't blend well. This was super consistent for me. I really liked it. I couldn't seem to figure out the App Store. I'm not sure what that was doing. I tried to figure out if it was installing a deb package, but I didn't see that it was. I think it was just dropping binaries, but I'm not really sure. So I had some confusion.
Don't worry about a random app store dropping binaries on your computer, Dan. Don't worry about that.
At least it lists who the developer was so you could reach out to him.
Who was it?
Developer.
Yeah, I think I've met that guy.
Yeah. Every
Hold on.
one of them's listed as developer.
My favorite thing in the store. Hang on. My absolute favorite thing. One of my first go-to apps to install on any distro is Audacity, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they have a tagline. They have a custom tagline, not Audacity's tagline. They have their own custom tagline for just about every app in there. And Audacity's tagline was, "We are all Lady Gaga." That was it. And I'm like, you know what? I'm inclined to believe you. Let's install this thing right now. So yeah, exactly. And I used that Audacity. It worked fine. It was a weird version. It wasn't the version that Debian gives. It wasn't the version that Ubuntu gives. The version number escapes me now, but it was weird. But I enjoyed it. It was Audacity, so it worked.
But was it? Was it Audacity?
I mean, I quite literally recorded an entire Full Circle Weekly News on this. So that episode does exist. So I mean, yeah,
Well, that's
it's
great.
definitely there.
You're saying it was software that, as far as you know, recorded your voice into a file format that you could then use.
Technically FLAC. I mean, it did say .FLAC, and then I imported it to a different Audacity that I'm familiar with, and it worked. So it's cross compatible at the very least, Lady Gaga.
Have you ever ordered something on Amazon and you thought you were getting like a Sony XYZ, and then you got it?
It was a Sany.
It was just SANY instead of Sony. Yeah, that's how I feel about their app store.
Have that feel a little bit. Yeah. And so further scratching at the surface a little deeper, I don't know. I had a great time for about 3 weeks, I think, and I had installed some flat packs. And so I went to use Slack.
Hold on, Dan, real quick. While you're there, so the nice thing about when you're nervous about an app store is we have Flatpak, we have Snaps.
Yes, that
right?
sounds like a great thing.
So you can bypass. By the way, I didn't install one thing from that store. I couldn't touch that store. I couldn't put enough body covering on to walk in the store.
Wow.
I left my wallet in the car and my keys.
Yeah. Tell us how you really feel.
Yeah. So, but at least we have flat packs that work great. Go ahead, Dan.
Right. That's a great idea. Let's use Flatpak. That was great for about 3 weeks, and then I don't know what happened. They seem to have updated the back end for Flatpak, and my Flatpaks don't work anymore.
Oh, funny. My flat packs don't work anymore either, Dan.
I know they start, and I can see it down in the tray, but I've got no video, and I can't click on anything. It's like it totally killed my display manager, probably.
I'm going to go into this a little bit more, but why did you choose the flat pack of Slack? I think you had mentioned that you actually installed the version from the App Store of Slack, right?
I tried that, and it wouldn't launch because the version was too old, and it said, your version's too old, and you can't sign in.
Oh,
so
well.
Yeah, because it was based on like Debian
Strike one.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was bad. And I don't know. That's where it kind of lost its luster. It looks pretty, but that's where it ended.
Hey, holding it together for 3 weeks is no small feat.
It's not bad. That's not bad.
Yeah. Glad we tried it for a month.
So I think it's cool that it ships on systems and it looks nice. But yeah, I think you really got to tinker beyond that to make it work for you.
Well, let me hop in here, if I may.
Go.
And here's the deal, right? I think right at the very beginning, I launched the App Store, and the first thing that I did was go check out version numbers, right? Because I was like, if this is Debian stable, then whatever software is in here is going to be 7.5 years old, and I'm probably going to have to go another route with it, right? I'm going to have to Flatpak it or snap it or something like that, right? Well, the deal with that, though, is it's not the Debian stuff. So here's my thought process, right? A few things that I install Chrome. Just in case I need to get some work done that is very Google centric, I get Chrome. Well, their version, and to their credit, not that crusty. It was 84. The current version is 86,
well,
at least as we're recording this. Right, and it's not so bad. Firefox was 81, and the current version was 82. So, again, not too terribly bad. But, I mean, as you heard before, I'm kind of a security nerd, so I like my security patches. I like to be as up-to-date as I possibly can, as long as it doesn't break anything. So, that was like, okay, well, let me look a little deeper. What else is weird like that? And yeah, Slack and Telegram were next up on the list. Slack was 3.4.2, and as you mentioned, too old to use. So yeah, the current version is 4.10.3. So yeah, can't do that. Telegram 1.5.11.
Oh my.
Yeah, the current version is 2.4.4.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. So, but it's not all like that because as I mentioned, the browsers are fairly current, and GIMP is fairly current. 2.10.8, that's not what's in Debian, I don't think.
No, that's pretty new.
But but it's up to 2.10.22 right now, I think is the current version. But it's still, so you can't just blame it on, it's just old Debian packaging, that's why it's the way that it is. I mean, Slack doesn't even show up in the Debian repository. So, I mean, they definitely maintain their own app store, but maintain, I guess, is something that you got to just watch out for, right? I mean, some things they maintain and some things they do not, and some things you are just Lady Gaga, you know? So, and then you mentioned Flatpak. That was a route that I was going to go down, but just about everything that I wanted had a deb available for me. So I was just like, I could figure out if Flatpak was going to work. I didn't know at the time. But I just figured, all right, I got to get Discord anyway, whatever. I'll just go get the debs for everything. I was digging into Snap, and I realized, no, don't do it. Even the Snap store itself, there's a forum on the Snap store, and it's like, it's broken.
Oh, geez.
Something is broken. We don't know what, but it's broken, so don't.
It's funny you say that, though, because try searching for Snap or install Snap on Deepin, and you will get 100 different results that are like either 4 years old or whatever it may be, but it's not. So I tried to approach it and I'll get into it a little bit later, but I try to approach it from me handing this to somebody and having them use it. And there's just no way a regular person is going to find out how to install Snap on Deepin.
Oh, no. I mean, and even if you do get it installed, there's no guarantee that it's going to continue to work, as Flatpak kind of showed us, right? I mean, if anything upgrades, it's not official. I mean, I don't even know if it's not official. It's just, it's not exactly what you expect. And a lot of times that's just going to turn into weird behavior.
Doesn't that make you feel uneasy then?
Oh, very much so.
I mean, yeah. So what I assume it is just they want all the control on everything that's installed on the system, unless you go like I did and just go install the deb, where you get your own repos and you get, pull that stuff down from where I don't know, you can look in the sources.list or sources.list.d and figure out where stuff is coming from. But if you're pulling it from Deepin, they want the control on that. And I don't necessarily think that's a bad thing, but when you break Flatpak, it is.
Yeah.
Well, if you're not worried about Flatpak because your keylogger doesn't work on it anyways, that's why you have to use the older versions of the software.
Regardless of what you think might be installed or bundled with it or whatever, Slack never even opened, so
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. They just wanted to get you to type in your password once. I want to hear Rocco's thoughts. Because Rocco loves Deepin. I mean,
he said he did.
I think I got a finger shame for shame, Joe, for shame.
Wait, little backstory here. So when we first tried Deepin, I was extremely happy with what I saw, and Joe was just poo-pooing everything. Yep. And I'm like, why, dude? Like, this is fantastic. And he was just like, kept on going. And then I slowly turned after a few weeks. So I started out trying this. And like I said, I started out trying it as something that I would hand to somebody, because that's what I felt the experience was when I first installed it. So as you said, Dan, I had tried the previous versions of Deepin, and they just, even though they had that ability to be beautiful, like a good looking distribution, it still had some quirks that completely turned me off, including the pop out, fly out settings manager. We had to scroll 100 miles before you got to the bottom to get to whatever setting you were looking for. Inaccuracies or inconsistencies with the menus and the spacing and all that. I tried this version and it was absolutely flawless in the way it looks. I mean, everything that I had a problem with was fixed. Everything about this is beautiful. I think this is the most beautiful Linux distribution out there right at this moment, bar none.
It feels complete, doesn't it?
It does.
It feels like it's a whole package. You take the whole thing and it's together. And that's something that you don't see in a lot of distributions and just desktops in general.
That's not taking away from operating systems like Elementary OS. But this particular version of Deepin is awesome and beautiful, and everything is set up to where people would be familiar with it. like you right click on the menu. You get exactly what you expect to get on any operating system. You have the menu where you have a choice of your regular menu, and then you click the little button and it brings you up a full screen menu like GNOME, and it looks perfect. It's not inconsistent anymore. You have the little dock, but you also have something that most distributions don't have. And to me, that's something that I've always loved. And that is a little arrow in my system tray that I can close, that I don't have to see everything that's running in the system tray. It just closes it all up, just like kind of, I don't want to mention Windows, but in that same vein, it has that. And I think that's something that should be in every distribution.
I think they took design cues, the good design cues from Mac OS and Windows and even a lot of the Linux distributions or desktops and they just kind of smashed them all together, threw some blur on it. And I mean, quite literally, I feel like this is as close to iOS as you're going to get on a desktop. And I like that.
It's funny you mentioned that because actually one of the menu options is a lot like iOS, I think.
Exactly. I chose it.
Mm-hmm.
I was so impressed with my first impressions of this distro. I felt like this was, we always talk about that distro you would get behind to hand to people and say, here, this is what Linux could be. Now, you still got your choices, but this is something for anybody to use. That's what I felt when I first started using this.
Agreed.
And that's the bar that was pushed up by my first experience with it. And that's why I was so excited to use it. And then that's when it all started to kind of fall apart. I mean, including the App Center. And Joe, I completely be honest with you, I felt the same way as far as I didn't want to install nothing from the App Center. And maybe that's just me being leery about it, but like I didn't install anything from the App Center. I tried to install Steam, kept getting errors, go to search for it, and like I said, maybe that has nothing to do with Deepin, but it blew my dream apart that I could hand this to somebody and they could use it, and if they had a problem, they could just search and find a quick answer. And that whole dream just fell completely apart, and it just slowly, piece by piece, ruined my impressions of.
Well, counterpoint. You probably could get away with it, and let me tell you why. If you handed someone straight out of Windows, straight out of Mac OS, and you handed this to them, and you said, "Hey, here, there you go. Whatever. You need to install some software. Go to the website." Download the deb, install it, and that would actually not be that far away from what they're used to, right? In Mac OS, you got to go get the DMG or whatever app file, and in Windows, you got to go find the MSI or the EXE. So, I mean, it's not that far away, but if you already are in the Linux kind of ecosphere, I don't know if I just made that up. Maybe I did.
Sounds good.
But if you're already here, then yeah, it's going to rub you the wrong way because, I mean, I'm used to an app store. I'm used to Flatpaks, and I'm used to snaps. What's the deal?
Joe, tell me why you were so down on it. Did you have that first elation like I had when you first saw it, or what?
I agree with everything you said.
He's going to say NVIDIA, watch.
I just scratched the surface a lot faster than you did. That's all. I think it is... their user interface is great. If it's stylistically what you like, and I did, it's very attractive. It's nice, but it flows. It's smooth. It is pervasive. It's everywhere in there. You feel like you are in an operating system, not in a Linux distro.
Yep. Gosh,
and
man,
I know some think that's the same thing, but I'm gonna tell you, it's not.
You're right.
So, you feel like you're in an operating system. I got in there. I'm like, ooh, yeah. I'm going to get to work. Stop. So what this proved for me is, I think, and we'll find out, I think, soon, because I'm going to give it another go. But using this, when Ubuntu DDE came out, everybody was like, why are we doing a DDE? Why do you need to do DDE? Just go install Deepin. This is why. Mm-hmm. Because I think with the Ubuntu base back end, and then if you can make this beautiful operating system, desktop environment, live on top of something that actually functionally works better. The nuts and bolts, the motor, transmission, and stick shift are all talking to each other, actually. I think you could have something really, really nice, but that's not there yet. They've done a lot of work on the front end, but I think the back end is a dumpster fire. The back end is a pickup truck about to lose its front tire going down the interstate.
So
better find a mechanic.
All of you Debian users out there can send your hate mail to @JojoFett.
I'll send you some screenshots back, and I'll show you what happened.
It's not even Debian. I'll tell you right now, Flatpak works fine in Debian.
I think it's them. It's the way they've put it together. There's some kinks. I don't know if it's because they're interjecting things in between. There's layers. I don't know what it is, but that's where it falls down. If all you had to do was boot it and look at it and dig through the menu, and I love the changes they've made. Again, so much attention to detail in the user interface. It's fabulous. But man, you scratch the makeup off that pig and it's a pig. So I just couldn't, that's why. I spent a day in it and I'm like, all right, let me get some work done. And it just, fell down for me.
So it was hot too, right? What was up with that? Did you ever figure that out?
So no, I didn't figure it out. I didn't figure it out. Here's how I figured it out. Don't boot it. And then my laptop wouldn't get hot. My laptop was screaming at me once I installed it. And I thought, okay, well, sometimes even when I upgraded Pop last week or whatever, that towards the tail end of the upgrade cycle, the XPS, the fans are blowing and it gets a little warm. But this was just running, and I was getting an hour and 45-minute battery life on a Dell XPS 15 with a 92 watt hour battery. Like, I can not charge it for ever in Pop or Windows or anything else that runs fairly efficiently.
You think like double, probably, normally?
Oh, what? No, triple.
Oh, geez.
I get amazing battery life out of that laptop.
I'm just gonna say I've got a T450S over here, and it gave me 6 hours. Like I quite literally turned the screen brightness down, and I left Wireshark on, and I told it never to go to sleep, and I came back like 3 hours later, and lo and behold, it said 3 hours left, and it started at about like 5 and change.
The issue, I'm confident, especially with the heat issue, was with the NVIDIA graphics.
It's gotta be.
I didn't get a chance to throw it on the Lenovo to see if a integrated graphics would have been fine, but the dedicated graphics, I'm sure. Even I felt that's where the heat was coming. So I think that thing was just pumping, and I did it I did it the way it was supposed to be done. They have the ability to run NVIDIA graphics and all that stuff. And I think it just was running full tilt the whole time.
Performance
killing
mode.
my battery. Yeah. I think it was, I don't even know it was performance mode. I think it was like performance mode plus you can't take a break.
Yeah.
Like it was just no naps, no spinning down. Yeah. It just wasn't great. And I installed it twice just to make sure. I wiped it and reinstalled. I thought, man, maybe something got goofed. Nope. Just didn't like the NVIDIA.
Well, speaking of installing it, I will say the Deepin installer, I don't know what that is. Is that their own thing?
Yeah, that's their own
thing. It's their own thing.
It's the most fantastic installer I have ever encountered in my entire life, dude.
It was cool.
Yep.
Oh my God.
Leo, that goes into part of what Joe was saying, that it makes it feel like an operating system.
It does.
And not just like a Linux distro.
And I was complaining the other day about the way that most distros handle UEFI. If you do not specify, it's just like, hey, I found one, plonk, and that's where it puts your boot.
Yep.
And it's like, whatever. So this one does not do that. I had to click like 2 things. It started up, it said, hey, what disk do you want to install it on? And this is in a machine with 4 disks. And I click on the disk, and it was like, that's it. And I was like, oh man, do I chance it? I did. I hit next. UEFI, there was an EFI partition created on that disk, which was not the first disk. Mm-hmm. And all of the boot junk goes into that EFI partition, And all of it's got tons of partitions, by the way. It's got a recovery partition.
Yes, it does.
By the way.
I noticed that.
So like when you do
because
system
it's an
upgrades,
operating system,
Yes.
not a distro.
Yes.
Yes. And
That's
so
right.
so you do that and you can roll back in case something goes wrong. So I mean, they're banging on 5 of 6 cylinders here. Once they figure out some of that back end stuff, this is really going to be a distro to compete with.
Dude, there are so many things in this distro that other distros should copy.
Yep.
And should. This is like the bar that you're setting and saying, this is what we need to strive to be.
All right, so knowing what previous releases look like and what this one looks like and how much work that must have taken, I think we need to watch out for it, because if they put the same amount of work into the back end that they put into the front end, we need to watch out.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's
Watch out for 20.15.
Right. Yeah.
20, okay, watch out for 25. 25.151.
Something like that.
32.
I know we got to wrap up, so I'm going to dive into the privacy stuff real quick. But okay, so even if you turn off all of the crazy stuff, right? There's a user experience program that I'll talk about for a sec. But if you turn all of that off and you just agree to the EULA, you are agreeing. Yeah. The regular EULA, not the user
that
experience
also
EULA.
made it feel like an operating system that
Sure
had a
did.
EULA.
Yep.
If you scrolled through it, you quite literally felt like you were scrolling through the other big two. You did. Or I mean, when on the phones, that EULA that you scrolled through, it reads exactly the same. It's got there are a couple of apps on there that really caught my eye. One was a desktop AI assistant, which I couldn't find, by the way, and the voice notepad.
Well, Master Chief, she had you.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be one of those kinds of things, and I was like, should I try it? And then I read the EULA, and I was like, no. So they quite literally, in the EULA say, they will collect your voice, transcribe the voice to text, and send that to a company called iFlyTech. If you look in the EULA, it's under the sharing, under 1.1.3, and then 2.1 is Desktop AI Assistant. And then there's, this is less worrisome, and it actually kind of is a callback to that 2018 stuff. On the system upgrades, which is, I imagine, tied into the App Store, will collect your device ID, system mainline version, system version number, and other information for us to clarify your system information so as to help you update accurately. The collected information will be anonymized, which reads a lot like what they were talking about before.
Yep.
So this was expected. So none of that really bothered me because I was going to avoid those two apps in the first place. And I mean, I totally get it. You need a little telemetry to figure out what you're doing. So I get that. It's the user experience program that really started to feel like, go read what they're going to do with your data, on those little hockey pucks that you buy and you plug into your Wi-Fi and all that. That's exactly how it reads. This is exactly how it reads. They're going to collect the BIOS, CPU, memory, disk information. They're going to get the applications installed, the versions, how you use them, the MAC address, the IP address of your network of your network hardware. And thankfully, we can't even use the Deepin ID service here. That's mainland China only. But oh, buddy, it gets better. If you sign up for that service, which we can't, which is good, I guess. If you're a privacy wonk, they will start collecting your browsing data and your mobile number and all of your mobile information. And once you sign up, you can't opt out of that. But yeah, so I don't think, and I'm probably making this sound pretty bad, but I do not think this is any worse than anything else out there. It all reads like this. If you're doing all this voice transcription and dealing with all of these features, it's the same. I am not, for all of this, I'm still not I'm still not more worried about this than I am about the other stuff that I'd try my best to not use. So what do you guys think? You going to sign up for Deepin ID?
I just want to use the desktop voice recorder.
Yeah.
And what are you going to say?
Hi from America.
Maybe we could send suggestions of, hey,
would you like to be my pen pal?
Please fix Flatpaks.
Yes,
that might work, right?
We're not on it now. They can't hear us right now, Dan.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you fire it up and
I did digging. I had mentioned at the top of the show that I did some Wiresharking, and there was nothing that caught me off guard. It talks to DigitalOcean for network time protocol, so it can keep your time. It talks to Baidu, which is, if I'm not mistaken, like a Chinese Google, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what they do. They do advertising and all of that. I couldn't tell exactly what they were talking about, or what my laptop and Baidu was talking about, because it's all HTTPS over TLS, encrypted stuff. And I was not about to set up Ettercap to try and dissect this. Then they talked to Hetzner Online, which is, I think, a German company that does hosting. And that's where you get all your packages from. They do actually the one thing that made me mad, they look up packages.deepin.com every 100 seconds. Like it's
you got to get the latest. You got to get the latest stuff, man.
But come on, you could do that once an hour, man.
Right.
You don't have to do it that often.
You got to check it that often. I mean, we got one update in 4 weeks.
No, there were 3 separate system upgrades that I had gotten.
I got one.
Oh,
maybe
man.
because I decided never to turn it back.
That might be
because I think I got one major update.
There were not a lot.
And that's the one that broke Flatpak.
Yeah. Well, their community store, the store is hosted at Alibaba, which is like AWS.
Yep.
And their CDN, where they cache all their stuff, is cached at Zenla Hosting. But that's it. That's all my laptop was talking to. Mind you, I unchecked all the stuff that I didn't have to agree to, but that's what my laptop was talking to. That's pretty normal stuff.
It did seem fairly normal.
So safe to say this would be the similar EULA to Microsoft,
Absolutely.
to Google,
Sure.
to I don't know if Apple's would be the same,
Yeah,
but probably
it's
there's
pretty
some
close,
stuff
I
in there.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so nothing to write home about.
No, this is fairly normal
It's
stuff.
definitely different than a Linux distro, though. Let's
Yes,
make that
exactly.
distinction.
That is
Exactly.
the difference.
Coming from the
Yes.
bigger OSs, this is the same stuff. Coming from a Linux OS that tries to put your privacy first, your security first, then yeah, you probably won't be happy with it.
Yeah, this is not that distro. This isn't Tails.
No.
Or whatever.
Yeah, the opposite of Tails. Yeah.
You're not using the
This
Tor
is the
browser.
opposite.
No.
Yes, yeah. So it sounds like you all loved it, and you're going to be using it day in and day out for the rest of your life.
Oh, Joe, I'm so sorry. It was so beautiful, but it just didn't. No, I have to get rid of it.
Okay, Leo.
This is definitely going to be one that I'm going to watch, because the stuff we said at the top of this section it's beautiful. It is beautiful, and I want it,
Mhm.
but I can't yet. Soon, I will try it again.
I'm in the same boat. I think it's beautiful. I think it's something that other distros should strive to create something like this. It's not there in the back end. It's not there in the security end. So when I say don't strive for this, I don't mean the security end of it. I just mean the cohesiveness and everything. But man, there's no way I'm keeping this on my machine. No way.
Well, I love it, and I just can't get enough of it.
As a heater?
And I'm a liar. Yeah, I'm in the same boat with you guys. I know I'm a little tougher on stuff. It's just when I get hurt, I just get upset.
Are you talking about the burn marks on your leg from your laptop?
Yeah, when I get physically hurt with like 3rd-degree burns from my laptop, it's beautiful. We've said all that. I agree. I'm going to keep my eye on it. If maybe the technical back end is not their strong suit, and the front end, I mean, again, they've done some amazing things. Get in there. I mean, even their grub menu was beautiful. They've done some really good cohesive things. If you were going to hand this to somebody and they were going to use it like somebody would use Chrome OS, where they're going to pop open a browser and they're just going to use Google Docs or something, it probably would stand up, I think.
And the EULA would be the same.
Yeah.
And the EULA would be the same, and they would never know a thing different. If you actually use your machine, this one's got a little bit to go, but I am very happy to see the strides they've made on the UI. It is just something for everyone to strive for, and we'll check back in with it down the road.
All right. We recently received some email from Jay, and he writes in, I just wanted to say, I don't think you should recommend users turn off UEFI. And he points out that Intel said they will start disabling CPU features if UEFI is off, and it will also break the firmware update tool. we'd like to thank you, Jay, for your feedback. And I'm going to turn it over to Leo, who said he doesn't normally use UEFI.
Well, hold on now.
But,
I do normally use UEFI.
Okay.
So what I don't use UEFI for are operating systems that I do not care about. So when we're doing our multi-boot whatever, and I want to know exactly where the bootloader is going, or I want to know exactly how EFI is going to behave, then it's quite likely I'm going to not use UEFI for that. I'm going to use a legacy boot because I'm familiar with it. But my main operating system on each of the machines that I use is always installed with UEFI. So regarding the FWUPD thing, number one, my laptop's too old for FWUPD to even care about it. There aren't any firmware updates coming down for that laptop. And my desktop is a custom build. You don't get MSI motherboard updates in FWUPD that I know of. Maybe Dan, are you gonna correct me here?
I'm not sure. I don't know.
I don't.
I
Maybe
want
you
them.
do. Maybe you do.
I mean, I wouldn't mind.
Yeah, it'd be nice, right?
Well,
But
I think the point that he was trying to make was this is referring to our last episode.
You're right, yeah.
where we talked about dual booting and we talked about UEFI, but we also talked about there are many different ways to handle how you approach it and what you do. So I think that was one of the things you talked about, Leo, that yes, you turn off UEFI, but as you said, it's not this is what you do.
right, and yeah, exactly. So I mean, it's definitely good advice. I mean, install via if you only have one distro on your machine, UEFI. What I think I was really getting at was that a lot of times UEFI has burned me as I mentioned before, right? Deepin handles UEFI beautifully. I would not have a second thought about installing Deepin over UEFI. But if I'm afraid that I'm going to get burned, I'm going to install it with legacy. But yeah, exactly. Install over UEFI. If you have an option, don't even give yourself the option. Install it over UEFI. That is the best way to do it. It's the most up-to-date way to do it. And as he mentioned, yeah, Intel's going to start wrangling you if you don't.
I'd like to take a moment to blame Leo.
All right.
Yep.
It's not going to catch on. Not going to catch on. Those dollar signs are too bright.
Hashtag
blame Leo. Dollar.
Hashtag UEFI hater. Hashtag I don't know. Joe was right and only uses UEFI
No.
all the time.
I love
every
all
time.
the boot ways. That's it. That's all it is. I'm an equal opportunity booter.
All right.
Thanks for the feedback, Jay.
Yes. Thank you, Jay.
Yeah, and thank you, Leo, for pointing out that, and thank you, Jay, for your feedback. The Linux community has some fantastic members, and we want to make sure to highlight that. In our podcast showcase for this episode, we have Linux Unplugged from Jupiter Broadcasting. Part of their tagline is an open show powered by community. I think that's one of the best things about the show, the community that surrounds it. A big thanks to Chris and Wes and everyone at Jupiter Broadcasting for fostering that attitude. It's a lug in a podcast. What do you guys think?
I think it's the first Linux podcast. Jupiter. He's had a couple iterations, but it's the first place I ended up when I was hunting Linux and just trying to find more about it. And I love it. I've been listening to Chris for years now. I even went back so much when I first got started. I was so hungry for Linux content that I went back and listened as far back as they had archived. It was like 4 years worth of episodes, and I'd listen to them in the spare time because it was all I could find out there at the time. And great content. He's been very consistent for a long time. Chris has been doing it, and he's had various hosts, Noah, Wes. They've all done a great job, and it's one of those that I don't miss a week.
Yep, I dig it, man. Every single Tuesday. I perk up for it, and I usually listen to it in like 15-minute chunks. But I mean, throughout the week, I get a little bit of Linux here, a little bit of Linux there. It's really good. I like the fact that if it ever pertains to anybody in the mumble room, there's always that chance for them to chime in and talk, and that's really what gives it that lug feel. You bring folks in.
Yeah,
I have been listening to Linux Unplugged for I don't know how many years. It is that show that everybody looks at So you talk to any Linux user that has been in Linux for any amount of years, and they're going to know Linux Unplugged. It's like one of those first shows that you listen to. It does have that feel of a lug, and that's from Chris making it that way. Like he saw even back then, he could have just put out a regular podcast and just talked and everything, but he saw back then.
He did that too, though.
That it was, well, yeah, but what I'm saying is he made this show that it was important to include people in it. And I think it's a fantastic podcast that everybody should listen to.
Very true.
Yep. If it's not in your podcatcher, feel free to add it. We have a link in our show notes. If you like what you hear on this show, please consider sponsoring us on Patreon. Head on over to patreon.com/LinuxUserspace. That's patreon.com/LinuxUserspace, all one word. Please follow us on Twitter @LinuxUserspace to get all the latest announcements for this show and highlights for things that impact your user space. And head on over to our Telegram group, where you'll find me probably reading all your messages, but you can continue the conversation over there at linuxuserspace.show/telegram. If you want to send us an email, you can send it to contact@linuxuserspace.show. Lastly, don't forget to rate this podcast on iTunes or your favorite podcast application, and like, comment, and subscribe on YouTube. You can always get more information at our website, linuxuserspace.show.
When you're rating the podcast, I think if you choose 5 stars, that's the worst rating. And the best rating is also 5 stars. It reads what you're thinking when you do
Right.
that.
Of course it does.
All thumbs up.
This is App Focus, where we focus on the app. And in this episode, I want to focus on Lutris. Lutris. What is it? At its core, Lutris is a game launcher. That's it. Seems simple enough, right?
Yeah.
Well, it can handle Windows games using WineTKG, which is a special performance-focused wine, Dolphin for GameCube and Wii games, RetroArch for almost everything else, and a ton more. It can also integrate good old games and Steam. And of course, if you got Linux games, it'll launch those too. So it's basically just your one-stop shop. If you want all your games in one place with tweaks provided, tested, and rated by the community, this is your app. So the coolest thing about Lutris, I guess, is that it pretty much works on any distro you have out there. Pop! OS, I know you just search it up, click install.
It's there.
Easy peasy.
I don't even know if I had to install it. Is it there?
For everybody else, though, I think Manjaro gets it too. They can have it. Everybody else, though, you probably got to do a little copy pasta into your command line to get the news sources.list so you can pull it down, whatever. But it's all there available on lutris.net. So just go there, click on, actually, I'm not looking at it right now, so I'm just going to make it up. Click on install.
Yeah.
and yeah, just follow the instructions on that. And I mean, it'll take care of itself. Once it's installed, all you really got to do is search for the game that you want. And it's going to walk you through how to install it. I was talking about in a Telegram group a little while ago, there was somebody talking about how they were having trouble getting something installed, and they were saying, well, it doesn't install through Steam. And so I look up the game really quick on their little database, and there it was. It was like, well, you can install it through the Epic launcher, and here's how you do that. You can launch it through Steam. Here's how you do that. And if you can launch it through, there was some other way, and it was like, here's how you do that. So there are a ton of ways to get your games installed, and if one doesn't work, no big deal. You can try the next one on the list. I play a lot of World of Warcraft, and so that means I have to have the Battle.net launcher. So World of Warcraft, I won't say it's easy to install. The Battle.net requires all kinds of bits and bobs that you have to like plug in and make sure that this and that is there, but the instructions are there. It tells you exactly how to do that. And no other way have I found to be able to play Windows-only World of Warcraft in Linux. So it prevents me from having to reboot my machine into my Xbox OS, basically, and play some video games. So what is y'all's experience with it?
So my take on Lutris is it is a fantastic app that has great support. For me personally, I have had one or two issues where I was not successful in getting things installed, and I didn't want to take the time to actually go. I didn't have to take the time to go get it. Origin was one of those games. Actually, it's an engine or a library of games that I couldn't get installed through Lutris, but Lutris itself is fantastic.
It's what I have used of it is great. A lot of my games these days, they end up working in Steam just fine, which says great things for Linux.
Proton is so good.
Yeah.
It's so good.
But what I do love about Lutris is you can go look at the game that you're interested in playing, especially if you're struggling with it on Linux or you bought it somewhere else, GOG or whatever. And then it'll rate it for you. Is it a gold game? Is it this? Is it that? And then there's a bunch of examples. There's chat. There's people, what other people have run into that kind of walk you through things. And I think that is about as easy as you're going to get these days. It's much easier than it was 5 years ago. And it seems to be getting better daily.
Absolutely.
So like Joe, I don't use it a lot. I generally use Steam. That's kind of my go-to, and I find most of my games there. But for the few games that I have installed, via Lutris, it has made it a lot better. And so I feel like it enhances Steam and just makes my gaming experience that much better.
Yep. Now, one of my favorite things about Lutris, though, is that I have an AMD card, and AMD, you are able to use the new ACO shader compiler thingamajig that makes games faster. And I don't know how you turn that on in Steam, to be honest. I think you have to go into the little launcher thing and add a command to it or whatever. In Lutris, you click on the settings and you turn the toggle on. That's it.
Yep.
And I mean, I just keep harping on it, but I mean, the main game that I'm talking about here is World of Warcraft, and we're talking, it is night and day. The performance is fantastic, and the fact that all I had to do was click settings and turn on a toggle, it blows me away. There's so much value in something like Lutris. If it doesn't work perfectly in Steam, Lutris may be able to help you pick up the pieces. So, I mean, yeah, that's pretty much it for me. I mean, it is a launcher that allows me to play the games that I want to play without having to reboot into Windows. And just for that, regardless of performance, though that is kind of a plus, it's worth it for me.
Yeah, if you're a gamer, this is definitely in your tool belt. This is one that you're going to keep running in Linux, and it's as great as it's getting, as it's been, and it's only going to get better. But Lutris is definitely amazing that we're at this point where you just plug and play for the most part on a lot of games. A little bit of tweaking sometimes.
Yeah,
I agree.
A lot of bit of tweaking on Warcraft, but hey, whatever.
Yeah.
I'm willing to go through that pain so I don't have to reboot.
There you go.
Thank you all for joining us in this month's distro of the month of Deepin, following along, trying it out, and we have a new distro of the month coming up. Drum roll, please. Drum roll. Anybody?
No, I got nothing.
All right. So our distro of the month for November is KDE Neon. Joe, I just want to ask you, why are we trying KDE Neon?
I think we spun a bottle. Something was it? Flipped a.
We can blame Joe for this.
Okay,
we can blame Joe.
Yeah, we
Just
can blame
saying.
me. I'm just send it all. Send it all. Give me all the blame. Yeah, I fell in love with KDE again while we were using OpenSUSE. So I did say, hey, maybe we could focus in on Neon. They just had their little conference. They just had their conference recently, and they were talking about they were going to be focusing on Neon. So what better way than to feature Plasma than Neon?
It's the best of the best. They just dropped 5.20.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. It's perfect. All right, so that is the distro of the month. But next episode is not about KDE Neon. It is a topic-based episode, and we will guarantee that we will be talking about Linux and stuff that affects your user space.
And we'll probably laugh about stuff too.
Thank you all for following along with us this month with Deepin again. But I want to thank you for listening and for your support and for all of the conversations that go along in the Telegram group. That means a lot to each and every one of us. We all do this podcast because we enjoy doing it. But if you guys weren't listening, it would kind of be boring. So we appreciate that. So where can we find you guys?
You can find me on Twitter at JoJoFett.
You can find me at Leo Chavez.
You can find me at KC2BEZ.
And you can find me at Big Daddy Linux. Join us in 2 weeks for another episode of the Linux User Space. I can send it to you through chat, through Zoom chat.
Oh, yeah. See, you're the man. That's why you're the man.
Coming up on this episode of Linux User Space, we cover Deepin. Is it that distro that you can give to the new user? Or is it something... I had it too. I had it all right there.
I was thinking you were just going to go with else.
Yeah.
Yes, I should have just went with else.
That was the most dramatic else
Can you cut?
I've ever heard.
No, I'll just redo it. But this is the show we're announcing the distro of the month, right? Like, this is, yeah, okay.
I don't know how many people actually did Deepin, though.
Maybe we want to mention both.
Us. We did.
We're
Deepin.
just going to assume that they all did it, Leo.
Yeah, well, actually, throw a number out there. Be like, all 148 of you. Thank you. My NAS is still on Debian 9. Yeah, no, it's dead. Debian 9's dead. I need to...
I think they are still doing security updates, but they have to be pretty serious security updates.
I was gonna... Okay, so it's like XP support, where it's like, oh yeah, if they can totally burst your computer into flames, we'll issue a security update.
I think, yeah.
Okay.
If I'd have just drove here in a video game, we would have never had this problem. My tire never falls off on Forza. Lazy.
I was like, oh no, we didn't do the outro. No, we totally did.
Yeah.
We should probably
All right.
stop.
Should
we
we,
gotta-
or should we banter more?
What do you want to banter about?